Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear participants. Welcome to this session of textual study of the Quran. In this surah, as you would know, we have been studying since the past few sessions the tales and accounts of the previous messengers of God and their nations and how they behaved and ultimately ended up denying their respective messengers. The message is, of course, for the Quraysh, who are being warned that nations who were similar to them, messengers were sent to them, assigned to them, and they delivered God's messages absolutely faithfully. They cleared all misconceptions, and it was like a conclusive communication. And since they denied this whole message, in spite of being totally convinced about it, they met a very horrific fate. So the Quraysh are being told that no different is going to be your own fate. So we are in the middle of the account of Prophet Moses, and we had started off studying that account, and today inshallah we'll continue with that. So the words are قالوا يا موسى إما أن تلقي وإما أن نكون نحن الملقين. At this, the magician said, O Moses, will you throw, or if you want, we can throw? He said, you throw. So you will recall that until the previous verse, when Moses saw that the stubborn Pharaoh had to be somehow put to shame or put to regret, he presented his own miracle. And when he saw this miracle, the Pharaoh thought that he is an expert magician, and he consulted his courtiers, who said that, well, let's have a duel with Moses, and that will be in the shape of our magicians countering his magic, as they would say. So this is now that part of the account in which the actual encounter took place between the magicians of the Pharaoh and Moses himself. So the words that these magicians said was that, would you like to begin, or would you like us to begin? And this statement is in accordance with professional ethics, but such is its style that it expresses their wish that if Moses wants, they can take the first turn. So it's like saying that, well, if you want, you can do it, otherwise we will do it. So basically the style is that or the implication is that we would like to go first. And Moses actually understood it, and that is why in the very next verse this is what he said. قال ألقوا فلما ألقوا سحروا أعين الناس واسترهبوهم وجاءوا بسحر عظيم. Thus when they threw, the eyes of people were deluded, and it terrified them, and they brought forth a great magic. So Moses actually said that, well, it seems that he felt in his heart that they wanted to throw. So he said, as you can see, Alqu, you throw. And it also seemed that he was fully confident that God was with him. So he gave them the opportunity to begin and show their skill. And when magicians want to display their skill to people, they usually throw something like the arrows of gambling before them, and they show their magic. So that is why the word alqa is used here, and just to begin the encounter by saying, okay, if you have to begin and begin your show, then let it be. And then it is said that as soon as it was thrown, it went on engulfing the magic they had fabricated, which means أوحينا إلى Musa. Before that even happened, Moses said that, well, you throw and let's see what happens. So فلما ألقوا سحروا أعين الناس, which means that when they did so, the eyes of the people were deluded. Now the Quran has actually clarified the nature of magic. It does not change the form of a thing. It only influences the eye. It's like an optical illusion. So that is why the words used are saharu ayun nas, that their eyes were deluded. The eyes were led to think that something had changed its shape, whereas originally it did not. It was the same. But the eyes were given this delusion that as if something had changed. So the words are وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَى مُوسَى أَنْ أَلْقِ عَصَاكَ فَإِذَا هِيَ تَلْقَفُ مَا يَأْفِكُونَ. We signaled to Moses, throw down your staff. Then as soon as it was thrown, it went on engulfing the magic they had fabricated. And as a result, the next verse says, فَوَقَعَ الْحَقُّ وَبَطَلَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. So the truth manifested itself, and whatever they were doing was all nullified. So what exactly does this mean? It means that wherever the snake of the staff went, that staff had converted it into a snake. Remember, this was no optical illusion. The optical illusion was by the magicians, but when Moses threw down his staff, it became a dangling serpent. And it changed every rope and stick that was waving like a snake, and it converted back each rope and stick so that it actually was, and the spell of magic was nullified. That is what the words mean. Talqafu ma yafikun, that the way it engulfed their magic, it became exactly known that it was magic, and that was purely an optical illusion. So it is exactly the same as if the sun comes out to dispel a false moon. I mean, in the presence of the sun, the false moon can have no say and no grandeur. So it is obvious that in the presence of the real sun, the shine of thousands of artificial suns ought to vanish, and they did vanish. And this is what actually happened. And as soon as the miracles of Moses appeared, the spell cast by the magicians, it totally vanished. And that is what is being referred to as talqafu ma yafikun, that whatever magic they had fabricated was engulfed. فَوَقَى الْحَقُّ وَبَطَلَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ فَغُلِبُوا هُنَالِكَ وَانْقَلَبُوا صَاغِرِينَ وَأُلْقِيَ السَّحَرَةُ سَاجِدِينَ قَالُوا آمَنَّا بِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ رَبِّ مُوسَى وَهَارُونَ. Now you can see what has happened, and this is something which ought to take place. So it says, on that day, the Pharaoh and his companions were vanquished, and they were humiliated. And the magicians, upon seeing the sign of God, fell down in prostration. They fell down in prostration. And they spontaneously said, "We have professed faith in the Lord of the worlds, who is the Lord of Moses and Aaron." So they immediately thought that, well, what they are seeing cannot be magic. It could only be a miracle. And that is why you see that these magicians, they just fell down in prostration. They fell down before God as if accepting that, yes, Moses had shown them a miracle. And the words that they said clearly show how moved they were. They said, "We have professed faith in the Lord of the worlds, who is the Lord of Moses and Aaron." Now, this was an open rejection of the Pharaoh's divinity. You could imagine what it would have had an effect on the Pharaoh. And we also know from Surah Taha that the magicians were to some extent aware that they are not pitted against someone of their own genre, because it does seem from Surah Taha that they were actually forced to do this, forced into this magic encounter. They meant that the hidden spark in them awaited that somehow people should come in and make them show their true light. So in this regard, it is clearly something that they had already had this feeling that Moses was much superior. It was no magic that he was showing, it was actually miracle. And that is why they said that we profess faith in the Lord of the worlds, the Lord who is the Lord of Moses and Aaron. قال فرعون آمنت به قبل أن آذن لكم إن هذا لمكر مكرتموه في المدينة لتخرجوا منها أهلها فسوف تعلمون. Now look at the reaction of the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh said, "You have professed faith in him without my permission? This surely is a conspiracy which you have hatched in this city, so that you expel its inhabitants from there. So you will now know its consequences." So the Pharaoh, of course, was a very, very cunning and a clever politician. And he would say, this is what he said to dispel the effect created on the gathering by the confession of the magicians. So he knew that on the one hand, the magicians had just fallen apart, or their magic had fallen apart, and they had succumbed to the miracle of Moses. But there were several people who were onlookers, who were just watching the whole encounter. So in order to reduce the impact of this encounter so that the ordinary common masses, they are not affected, look what Pharaoh said. He said that you have done something without my permission. It seems that you were already in league with Moses, and this is like a plot that you have set. It's like a plan that you have hatched, and with the conspiracy and connivance with Moses, now you would like to turn against me. So, of course, this was something that no one was expecting. But this, the Pharaoh did in a very political way, so that he could reduce the impact on the onlookers. And then he further went on to say, لَأُقَطِّعَنَّ أَيْدِيَكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ مِنْ خِلَافٍ ثُمَّ لَأُصَلِّبَنَّكُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. I shall chop your hands and set your feet from feet from alternate sides. After that shall surely crucify all of you. And they replied, قَالُوا إِنَّا إِلَىٰ رَبِّنَا مُنْقَلِبُونَ. They replied, then what will happen is that we shall only return to our Lord. So look at the faith that they have. They said that if you kill us, it doesn't matter because we will only going back to God. وَمَا تَنْقِمُ مِنَّا إِلَّا أَنْ آمَنَ بِآيَاتِ رَبِّنَا لَمَّا جَاءَتْنَا رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا وَتَوَفَّنَا مُسْلِمِينَ. These are extraordinary words. So at this, Moses advised his people. And of course, this is something that every leader would do. And this is a very, very understandable thing that had happened on their part. So he said, you are harming us in anger because when the signs of our Lord came to us, we professed faith in them. This is what the magicians replied. They said that if you were doing something, it's just because you would like that we should not accept the truth. You would not like us to accept the truth. And why would we not accept when clear indications have come to us? And they went on to actually pray to God and said, Rabbana afrigh alayna, which means we professed faith in them, and Lord, now bless us with loads of patience and let us die as Muslims. Now you can see how this whole incident has turned over its head. These were the same magicians whose meanness and faint-heartedness was such that just a few minutes before they were displaying their skill, they requested for a handsome reward from the Pharaoh, like jesters and mimickers. And now, as soon as faith entered their hearts, every portion of their inner self started to dazzle in such a manner that it seems that darkness never enveloped them, and they are not ordinary mortals, but are actually paragons of steadfastness and determination, and as noble and as pure as one can imagine. One can see how big a threat the Pharaoh had sounded. Remember, he had said that I will chop off your limbs from opposite sides. But this did not have the slightest impact on them. Their answer was that they are not the least bothered of what the Pharaoh is going to do with them, because this crucifixion is going to make them return to God. They in fact challenge the Pharaoh to do whatever he likes to do, since his wrath on them is because of their crime of believing in their Lord's signs when they have come to them. If this was the punishment of this crime, they said that we very warmly welcome it. So that is how they responded, and this is something which is quite extraordinary. وَقَالَ الْمَلَأُ مِنْ قَوْمِ فِرْعَوْنَ أَتَّذَرُ مُوسَى وَقَوْمَهُ لِيُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَيَذَرَكَ وَآلِهَتَكَ قَالَ سَنُقَتِّلُ أَبْنَاءَهُمْ وَنَسْتَحْيِي نِسَاءَهُمْ وَإِنَّا فَوْقَهُمْ قَاهِرُونَ. The chiefs of the Pharaoh's nation said to him, will you leave Moses and his people in this manner to spread disorder in the land and forsake you and the deities set up by you? The Pharaoh replied, we will ransack the land to kill their sons and let their women live. In reality, we are fully dominant on them. So this actually refers to the statues of the Pharaoh himself, who was the avatar of the sun god. This is something that we have already discussed. So when the words are أَتَذَرُ مُوسَى وَقَوْمَهُ لِيُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَيَذَرَكَ وَآلِهَتَكَ, which means that will you leave Moses and his people in this manner to spread disorder in the land and forsake you and the deities set up by you? So of course the deities which the Pharaoh had set up were the statues of the Pharaoh himself, and we know that this is what he did. And in reply, they said that we are fully dominant on them. Inna fawqahum qahirun. The Pharaoh said that we are going to kill their boys and let their women live, and we are just going to destroy them. Inna fawqahum qahirun. We are fully dominant upon them. Now the same scheme for the genocide of the Israelites was adopted before the birth of Moses in the times of Ramses II. After being defeated in an area they had chosen themselves, when the courtiers demanded a very stern action against Moses and his nation, the Pharaoh announced that he would enforce the same barbaric scheme once again. So remember, this was the scheme that was adopted by him, by Ramses II, when Moses was being born, so that he thought that if there is a boy who's going to be born, then he would be killed. So these courtiers also assured the Pharaoh that there was no chance of any rebellion in the wake of this scheme, because their political power and authority had totally suppressed them. So this was a scheme that they wanted to once again adopt, so that once again, if there was any chance of the Israelites rising against them, it would be put to sleep. So, قال موسى لقومه استعينوا بالله واصبروا إن الأرض لله يورثها من يشاء من عباده والعاقبة للمتقين. At this, Moses advised his people, seek help from God and remain steadfast. The earth belongs to God. He makes whomsoever he wills from his servants to be its inheritors. And remember that success finally belongs to those who fear him. So now, when it is said that seek help from God, it actually means that prostrate before God in the prayer and request God's help. The same way has been mentioned in the Quran to seek help from God. That if you would like to seek help from God, then the best thing is that you pray to him and connect to him. Now, it is very difficult to remain steadfast during trials and tribulations, and this is a real test of faith, and one often becomes superstitious. So it is not possible to be steadfast without God's help. And the Quran in fact mentions this at one instance when it says, وَمَا صَبْرُكَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ, that you can only acquire patience if you have God's help. This actually means asking for God's help in the prayer, which is the prayer. In fact, it also refers to that special prayer to which the Prophet and his companions were directed to in the early part of the Meccan period, which we call as the Tahajjud prayer. It is precisely this which Moses and Aaron were directed to as well, as you can see. وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِاللَّهِ وَاصْبِرُوا, that you seek help from God and be patient. إِنَّ الْأَرْضَ لِلَّهِ يُورِثُهَا مَن يَشَاءُ, which means that the earth belongs to God. He makes whomsoever he wills from his servants to be its inheritors. So Moses was a messenger of God. Hence, this is a reference to the established practice of God in accordance with which he necessarily grants dominance to his messengers and his followers over their enemies. So that is what is mentioned by these words, that they will become the inheritors, they will be the ones who would finally succeed. And that is why it is said, وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, that success shall finally belong to those who are muttaqi, who are God-fearing. قالوا أوذينا من قبل من قبل أن تأتينا ومن بعد ما جئتنا قال عسى ربكم أن يهلك عدوكم ويستخلفكم في الأرض فينظر كيف تعملون. So once again it is said that they said, we were harassed before you came and are being harassed even after your arrival. Moses replied, hopefully your Lord will kill your enemy and grant you authority in the land, and then see how you behave. Now this is like a instantaneous warning from Moses. He says that if they support the messenger of God, they will be given authority and a kingdom. But this will only remain intact when the obligations they owe to it are fulfilled by them. If they get inebriated by their status and spread anarchy in the land, like the previous nations, then this will be taken away from them the way it was taken away and confiscated from the previous nations. So it is something which is very, very clearly said to them, that they said, we were harassed before you came and we are being harassed even before your arrival. So it seemed that these Israelites, in spite of the patience and steadfastness and concern and sympathy of Moses, they said that we were being harassed before you came to us, and we are still in this situation. And so Moses replied that don't worry, your Lord will kill your enemy and grant you authority in the land, and then he will see كَيْفَ تَعْمَلُونَ, that what exactly is the behavior that you adopt regarding God. So وَلَقَدْ أَخَذْنَا آلَ فِرْعَوْنَ بِالسِّنِينَ وَنَقْسٍ مِّنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَذَّكَّرُونَ. We kept the people of the Pharaoh inflicted with the torment of famine and reduction in production, so that they may pay heed. So this is a very established and a confirmed practice of God, which has been stated at a number of instances in the Quran, that as the preaching endeavor of these messengers enters the final phase, which is the phase of increased warning, or we can say in which it is the curtailed warning becomes enhanced warning, then these calamities and such calamities are sent to people in order to jolt them and shake them and awaken them from their slumber. So this famine that was sent to them, of course, this is something that the Pharaoh, I mean, they had interpreted in a different way, but the Quran says that the reason that we put Pharaoh and his people through these trials of famine and reduction in production was that لَعَلَّهُمْ يَذَكَّرُونَ, so that they are reminded, so they know that there is something more to it. فَإِذَا جَاءَتْهُمُ الْحَسَنَةُ قَالُوا لَنَا هَذِهِ وَإِن تُصِبْهُمْ سَيِّئَةٌ يَطَّيَّرُوا بِمُوسَى وَمَن مَّعَهُ أَلَا إِنَّمَا طَائِرُهُمْ عِندَ اللَّهِ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. But what happened was that when their good days came, they would say, this is our right. And when bad days came, they would regard them to be owing to the ill omen of Moses and his companions. Listen, the ill omen of these people lies with God, but most of them do not know. So this is, of course, a reaction that they would often make, that instead of regarding this good fortune and bad fortune to be trials from God, whenever bad fortune would befall them, they would say this is because of Moses. And when, of course, good fortune would befall them, they would say that this is our right, we deserve this. And in reply, it is said to them, Allah innama ta'iruhum indallah walakinna aktharahum la ya'lamun, which means that the ill omen of these people lies with God, but most of them do not know. وَقَالُوا مَهْمَا تَأْتِنَا بِهِ مِنْ آيَةٍ لِتَسْحَرَنَا بِهَا فَمَا نَحْنُ لَكَ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. They only said, whatever sign you bring to us to cast a spell on us, we shall not listen to you. Again, you can see that the amount of stubbornness and obduracy they had was that they said that, well, whatever sign that you bring to us, whatever sort of thing that you make us believe into, or it's like a make-believe thing, and you think that it's like something that is going to influence us, that's not going to be that's not going to happen. فَمَا نَحْنُ لَكَ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. We shall not listen to you in either case. So such was the stubbornness and obduracy that you can see from this verse. And then it is said, فَأَرْسَلْنَا عَلَيْهِمُ الطُّوفَانَ وَالْجَرَادَ وَالْقُمَّلَ وَالضَّفَادِعَ وَالدَّمَ آيَاتٍ مُفَصَّلَاتٍ فَاسْتَكْبَرُوا وَكَانُوا قَوْمًا مُجْرِمِينَ. So we sent on them and let loose on them locusts, lice, and frogs, and rained down blood. All these were signs which have been mentioned in detail in the scriptures of the Israelites. All these are signs that have been mentioned in the scriptures of the Israelites. So it has been, once again, we can see that these signs have been mentioned in the book of Exodus clearly. And this book actually tells us that how these people were inflicted with various storms, and these storms were struck. The onslaught of locusts is mentioned, so they were struck with these locusts. And then also we know that there were other onslaughts, other storms. For example, the lice, they attacked them, and this is also mentioned in detail in the book of Exodus. And then the frogs, they were also rained down on them. It was like a plague of frogs on their whole country. And so this is also something that destroyed them, and this is also mentioned in the book of Exodus. And then also we see that the torment of the blood manifested itself upon them. So it was as if the blood that it poured over them, and there was blood everywhere in Egypt. Even the vessels of wood and stone, Moses and Aaron did just as God had commanded them. They just raised their staff, and with that staff there was blood all over. And all these storms, of course, were something that were meant to shake and jolt them and make them realize that God has the power. But look what happened. وَلَمَّا وَقَعَ عَلَيْهِمُ الرِّجْسُ قَالُوا يَا مُوسَى أُدْعُ لَنَا رَبَّكَ بِمَا عَهِدَ عِندَكَ لَإِن كَشَفْتَ عَنَّا الرِّجْزَ لَنُؤْمِنَنَّ لَكَ وَلِنُرْسِلَنَّ مَعَكَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ. So even then they continued to show arrogance, and in reality they were wrongdoers. When a calamity struck them, they would say, "O Moses, pray to God for us on the basis of the covenant he has made with you." If at this time you put off this calamity from us, we shall certainly listen to you and shall definitely let the Israelites go with you. So remember, this is something which has been it's like a tradition amongst them, that pray to God for us on the basis of the covenant that you have, the promise by God, the promise which God has made to him in this capacity of his messenger. If he's able to ward off these storms and punishments, they would say, okay, we will be with you. And therefore this is something that went on and on. And O Moses, pray to God for us on the basis of the covenant he has made with you, that if at all you put off this calamity with us, we shall certainly listen to you. That we will be listening to you, will be obeying you, and shall definitely let the Israelites go with you. So remember, the demand of Moses was to let the Israelites go with him, so that he could take them and organize them as a nation in the land of Palestine. And these storms were sent to the Pharaoh and his people in order to shake and jolt them. And every time they were struck with a storm, they would make this commitment that we'll let the Israelites go with you if you are able to seek help from God and make this storm go away. But when actually it would happen, they would return to their own original evil ways. And that is precisely what is mentioned next. فَلَمَّا كَشَفْنَا عَنْهُمُ الرِّجْسَ إِلَىٰ أَجَلٍ هُمْ بَالِغُوهُ إِذَا هُمْ يَنْكُثُونَ. So it is said that then if for some period which they had to reach, we warded off that calamity from them, they would immediately break their promise. They would immediately. So this is like a habit that they had, that if the calamity would be warded off, they would again return to their evil ways. فَانْتَقَمْنَا مِنْهُمْ فَأَغْرَقْنَاهُمْ فِي الْيَمِّ بِأَنَّهُمْ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا وَكَانُوا عَنْهَا غَافِلِينَ. So we sought revenge from them and drowned them in the sea, because they denied our signs and remained indifferent to them. So this again is something which is mentioned clearly in a number of instances in the Quran. And the Quran has here said that God said, we sought revenge from them. فَانْتَقَمْنَا مِنْهُمْ, that we sought revenge for them and took revenge from them for the crimes they committed, of course. And in spite of that, they remained adamant upon them even after the truth had been understood by them in absolutely clear words. There was no doubt about that. وَأَوْرَثْنَا الْقَوْمَ الَّذِينَ كَانُوا يُسْتَضْعَفُونَ مَشَارِقَ الْأَرْضِ وَمَغَارِبَهَا التي باركنا فيها وتمت كلمة ربك الحسنى على بني إسرائيل بما صبروا ودمرنا ما كان يصنع فرعون وقومه وما كانوا يعرشون. So now the final words. On the other hand, those who had been oppressed, we made them the heirs of the vastness of the east and of the west, of the land we had blessed. In this way, the gracious word of your Lord with the Israelites was fulfilled, because they remained steadfast. And we ruined everything the Pharaoh and his people would make in their cities, and whatever they would enwrap on the thatched screens of orchards and cultivated lands of the villages. So this is how. And when it is said that the heirs of the vastness of the east, what does it mean? It means this refers to the land of Palestine, which was selected for the Israelites, as we've discussed before, for their own center of monotheism, in which God had placed special favors. So that is something that they were blessed with. And the gracious word of your Lord was fulfilled upon the Israelites, which meant that whatever bad thing they were doing, they were punished for that, and hence they found no refuge wherever they went. And when it is said that whenever they would enwrap on the whatever was enwrapped on the thatched screens of the orchards and cultivated lands of the villages, this actually refers to the production of grapes. We know that in Egypt this was a very, very prominent fruit, and this style is one in which a thing is called after its dominant element. Of course, what is meant is that all their cities and orchards were totally destroyed, totally decimated. Even the grape vines which they held dear, they were totally decimated. And it is evident from this that after the truth had been communicated to them by Moses, this happened. And it was not just the Pharaoh and his armies that were drowned. In fact, the whole country was routed, and all edifices and orchards were ruined. So remember, some of the, of course, the Pharaoh was there and the army was there who was chasing them. But then there were people back there as well. So they too were destroyed. So not only the Pharaoh and the army was chasing Moses and his companions was destroyed, but all back home who stayed there, they were also destroyed because of this. So this brings us to an end to the account of Moses. Inshallah, we'll be resuming from here on in our next session. So for the moment, if you have any questions, please raise them.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saleem. Thank you for the wonderful explanation. I do have a question. Shabana Ansari, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर।
वालेकुम अस्सलाम।
ये वाले जो अभी ये जो अजाब थे इनके ऊपर खून का, मेंढक और वो टिड्डी दल वगैरह, तो वो तो जाहिर है कि यूं तो हमें तफसील से नहीं पता, लेकिन वो जितना ड्यूरेशन हजरत मूसा वहां पर रहे तो वो वक्तन फवक्तन उन पर आते रहे और वो बार बार माफी मांगते रहे और अल्लाह ताला उनको माफ करते थे और फिर नया अजाब आता था, यहाँ तक कि वो उनको लेकर निकल गए। तो ये जो है इसका ड्यूरेशन पूरा, मतलब जब तक हजरत मूसा रहे वो ये आते रहे उनके ऊपर अजाब।
As it seems so, that as long as he was with them, all these strong storms and tempests, they descended upon them, and every time one of the storms would go away, they would promise that, well, if you make it go away, we'll let the Israelites go with you and we will follow you. But then whenever this would happen, they would just turn back on their words, and this would continue on, and you can see that 5 or 6 of these storms were sent, and every time they adopted the same attitude.
हालांकि कितनी बड़ी निशानियां थी और खुदा की तरफ से एक तरह के मोज़े थे कि वो इस तरह के आए, लेकिन मतलब वही तकब्बुर जब इंसान में हो तो वो कोई चीज असर नहीं डालती।
Right.
बहुत शुक्रिया।
If anybody has any questions pertaining to the passage, please ask it now. I do have a question in the chat, but I will be asking that once we've done with our session today. Noshad Shafqat Saab, please ask your question. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Saab, thank you, Bisma. Dr. Saab, overall, reading the entire episode, it seems that the Bani Israel were the chosen people of God, because he is forgiving them time and time again. Moses risks his life to be in the Pharaoh's palace, and the magicians are there, and then after that they still say that it is your ill will, it is because of you that we are facing all these trials and tribulations.
Yes. Yeah.
We were facing them before that and after that too. And yet God says in the end of the passage that we read that we destroyed their enemy and all that. One can get a feeling that the Jews seem to be the chosen people of God. Of course, the viewpoint that is held is that they were chosen with certain tasks, for certain tasks. But here overall, they seem to be quite God's favorite.
I mean, this is not probably the exact conclusion that we can draw. Favorites only mean that they were given responsibility, they were given the task of delivering the truth to the rest of mankind. So I think that the choice that he made was that he individually, earlier on, he just selected single individuals who were called prophets of God. So before Prophet Abraham, this was his practice. From Adam to Abraham, there were individual prophets who would act as God's envoys and deliver the truth. But after Abraham, he selected the whole progeny of Abraham because the task was monumental. And of course, in God's mind, we know from the Quran as well that the Nabuwah had to end also in the descendants of Abraham. So the scheme which the Almighty adopted was that He chose the progeny of Abraham, and of course in His scheme they were given the responsibility because to send messengers in pockets of every continent or every place it would become virtually very difficult or maybe more engaging because the population was increasing. So instead of adopting the previous policy of spending one messenger to a community, the Almighty in His own scheme knew that now the final moments of prophethood have arrived, the last 4,000 years are in progress. So He chose an entire nation for this purpose, and He made Moses groom them and made them realize that if they are up to the mark, then look at the favors that they will enjoy. So the Quran has referred to these favors at a number of instances, and the Bible is replete with them. لَأَكَلُوا مِنْ فَوْقِهِمْ وَمِنْ تَحْتِ أَرْجُلِهِمْ, which means that if they وَلَوْ أَنَّهُمْ أَقَامُوا التَّوْرَاةَ وَالْإِنْجِيلَ, if they adhere to the Torah and Injil, لَأَكَلُوا مِنْ فَوْقِهِمْ وَمِنْ تَحْتِ أَرْجُلِهِمْ, they will receive the favors of God from the top of their heads, which means it will be rained down on them, and from the earth as well. So this is an expression of utter blessings from God that they would receive. So this was the reward that they would get, but the responsibility was, of course, to adhere to the principles that they were given to them. So it's more a question of the methodology that was adopted by God, and also of the fact that He is a merciful God. He continues to give respite to people about whom He thinks that they might learn and come back. So what you can actually see is not any favoritism. It is, on the other hand, it's like giving them more and more opportunity and make them realize that you still have time to turn back. I'm giving you even more time. But you can see that ultimately, if you draw this whole account to a close, when Jesus arrived, they went after killing Him and crucifying Him. That is something else that God did not allow this to happen. But this is what their history tells us, that even after giving so much concession and reprieves, so many bouts of reprieves, they did not learn. And that is why that branch of the progeny of Abraham was ultimately deposed from their responsibility, and the responsibility was thenceforth shifted to the other branch of Abraham's progeny, which of course was from Ishmael.
Sir, but the number of chances that they are given, like for example, the people of Lot and Pharaoh and Noah and all the other prophets, they were not given so many chances as the Bani Israel were given.
So remember, they were single individuals. These were single individuals, and the chances that were given to them, remember, it's like a whole nation that had to be molded. And to educate or groom a single individual is much easier. So Lot himself was there, and he had no one else with him. But in this case, these Bani Israel, they were not messengers. Remember, Lot was a messenger, and all other messengers were messengers. So they were chosen for a task. They were themselves not messengers, but in their collective capacity, they were meant to bear witness to the truth. So that is why they were continuously given these chances. In the case of other messengers, of course, that should not have happened, because they were dealing with the messenger of God. In this case, they are not messengers. They are more of companions who were given a special task.
So Dr. Saleem, I have a comment and a question in the chat. What appears from these verses is that primary responsibility as a prophet Moses had was to get the Bani Israel freed from the Pharaoh and organize them as a nation in Palestine. Was not Pharaoh not the direct addressee of Moses, and was not it the prime responsibility of Moses to put before him dawah of monotheism? What appears dominant is the struggle of Moses to get Israelites freed from the Pharaoh.
No, that's not true, because remember, when Moses was sent to the Pharaoh, his primary aim was to address the Pharaoh. He had a twofold assignment. One, that the Pharaoh and his courtiers and his leaders and his chiefs, they were meant to submit to God. Remember, he regarded himself as the sun god. He was the avatar of the sun god. So, and the greatest exponent of polytheism, because he himself thought that he was God. So you just cannot draw a conclusion from a single passage, although it is mentioned sparingly here. But at other instances in the Quran, in Surah Taha especially, when this episode comes out even in much more detail, the dawah was presented to the Pharaoh in very, very humble words, and then strong words as well. So that is what he did when he initially came. And then he said that he would like the Israelites to let them go with him, so that he could fulfill a second assignment. So these were like two assignments. So one was that he was assigned towards the Bani Israel, and the other was that he was also assigned to the Pharaoh and his courtiers.
Naushad Shafqat Sahab, please ask your question.
Sir, the punishment of that Pharaoh is talking about, killing the boys of the Bani Israel and letting the women grow, this was in force even when Musa was born. But
Correct.
as you
So this was
explained,
the
the
second
Ramses,
instance.
Ramses the second had introduced it. So what
Correct.
was decided here was that punishment is to continue.
Is to be resumed. I mean, they would resume it because now they were thinking that if allow him to go and take the Israelites amongst them, then I mean this was a chance that they might rebel, and if even they stay with them.
How would that be resumed? Because Moses is still alive, and Moses also was a victim of this very same law.
I mean, it stopped for some time. It does seem initially Moses was alive, and now that he had come back to them with the same demand, they thought that these people are growing in numbers. And remember, they were swelling in numbers. And I mean, the people of the Pharaoh and they themselves, they thought that they were outnumbered. And if they allow them to grow like this, and their male child, I mean, especially if they start growing like this, then they'll become a huge army against him. So in the first instance, the thing was that someone should not come and challenge the Pharaoh in this form, that even a prophet of God should be just killed. And now in the second instance, it was that they feared that a rebellion might take place, because if they have large numbers of the male gender, then they could organize themselves and attack him.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Amar, if you have a question, please ask it now. I see that you can't raise your hand. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saab. Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Saab, my question was regarding Bani Israel and these passages in the Quran, and how we see the meanings of these. My question is that if there is a somewhat of a continuous punishment for these people and this nation, sometimes I have felt that isn't this a bit unfair of God that sins that have been committed by people thousands of years ago were so severe, but at the same time God has attached a punishment with these people till the end of time, a never-ending punishment for generations to come, and now new people coming in other times who have not committed the sins of their forefathers, obviously, are still paying for it.
I mean, so you see, this could have been easily, done away with if they would have just accepted the truth. In that case, they would have accepted their crime of denying Moses or Jesus, as was the case, and coming back to their original form. So the punishment was only meant for people who would persist in this denial. If they would have come back, they would have realized their mistake. Of course, what would have happened? They would have professed faith in Moses, they would have professed faith in Jesus, and ultimately in Muhammad. Because you see, remember, the punishment is only going to continue as long as you follow the ways of your forefathers. As soon as you realize that they were wrong, and you change your own stance, immediately, that punishment would just be warded away from you, because now you would no longer be counted among them. Now you'll be counted among the people who profess faith in either of these prophets, depending on whose times these people were in.
Do you have another question, Amar?
I have another question, but not. Yes, thank you.
Okay, then we'll move to the end. Okay, Dr. Saleem, I have another question related to the first one I asked you. Had the Pharaoh positively reacted to the dawah of Moses, then would still Moses have demanded him to let the Israelites go with him to Palestine?
Oh yes, because that was the scheme of God. That was nevertheless was supposed to happen. So had the Pharaoh accepted faith, well, he would have been left alone. He would not have drowned, and he would have continued in his own life, and he would have allowed the Israelites to go with Moses. So you see, this was a scheme independent of the attitude of the Pharaoh.
Okay, I do not have any raised hands, Dr. Saleem, or any chat questions. We can continue with the idiomatic translation and then maybe come back if you have any more questions.
You too. Okay, so starting off with the literal translation and idiomatic one, this is verse 115. Qalu ya Musa. Qalu, they said, Ya Musa, O Moses, imma, either, an, that, tulqiya, you put down, wa, and, imma, or, an, that, nakuna, we should, nahnu, we, mulqeen, the ones who throw down. So this is like more of a literal thing. Otherwise, idiomatically, it would mean that they asked Moses, either you put down or we are among those who put down. Imma an tulqiya, either you put down, or wa imma, and we, or the second case is an nakuna nahnul mulqeen, that we become among those who put down. Qal, Moses replied, alqu, you throw down or you place down. Falamma, fa, therefore lamma, when, alqaw, they placed it, they threw down. Saharu a'yunna, saharu, which means deluded. A'yun, eyes. Nas, people. The eyes of the people were deluded, or the eyes of the people witnessed an optical illusion. Wa, and istarhabuhum, and it struck fear in them, whatever they saw. Wa, and ja'u, they came upon bisihrin azim, a great magic, or they brought forth a great magic. This is what they did. And now it was Moses' turn. So therefore the next verse says, wa, and awhayna, we revealed to, ila, towards Musa, Moses. So we revealed towards Moses, and what was that? That. Alqi, throw down. Asaqa, your staff or your baton. Asa is staff, qa is yours. You throw down your staff, throw down your stick. Fa izahiya. Fa izahiya is a compound expression meaning that suddenly, talqafu, it engulfed, ma yafikun, what they had concocted. So suddenly it began engulfing or destroying whatever they had fabricated, which means the magic that these people had fabricated, it was totally exposed. Fa, therefore, waqa'a, fa waqa'a al-haq, waqa'a, manifested, al-haq, the truth, therefore the truth manifested itself. Wa, and batala, batala means nullified, ma, that, kanu, they, ya'malun, doing, and what they were doing was totally nullified or finished. Fa ghulibu hunalik, fa, therefore ghulibu, so ghulibu would mean that they were actually vanquished. Hunalika, at that instance they were vanquished. Va, and inqalabu, they returned, saghirin, humiliated. So they immediately, for ghulibu hunalika would mean that they were vanquished right at that place. Wa wanqalabu saghirin would mean that they ended up saghir, they ended up disgraced. Wa, and ulqiya, prostrated. Sahara, the magicians, in prostration. Wa ulqiya, asal mein the words are ulqiya sajidin, that these magicians, they just went down in prostration. Actually the words are wa ulqiya sajidin. As-sahara is just the plural of sahir, and that is referring to the magicians. So the magicians were basically people who went down in prostration. Qalu, they said, amanna, we have professed faith, bi rabbil alameen, in the Lord of the worlds. Now this is these are the magicians saying. Qalu, they said, what did they say? Amanna, that we have professed faith, bi rabbil alameen, in the Lord of the worlds. And who is he? Rabbi Musa wa Harun. He is the Lord of Moses and the Lord of Aaron. Qal, said Fir'aunu, the Pharaoh, amantum, you have professed faith, bihi, in him, qabla, before, an, that, azana, I permitted, lakum, you. So you have professed faith. This is what the Pharaoh said, that you have professed faith in him before I could grant permission to you, before even my permission was granted to you. Now you have professed faith in him. Inna haza, inna indeed, haza, this, la makrun, a ploy, makartumuhu, that you have deployed, fil Madina, in the city. So this is what the Pharaoh is telling them, that this is a ploy that you have employed in the city. لِتُخْرِجُوا minha, so that you can expel its inhabitants, minha, from it, ahlaha, those who are living there, so that you can bring out or expel from it its inhabitants. لِتُخْرِجُوا أَهْلَهَا minha is the construction, which means that so that you are able to expel the ahlaha, the inhabitants of that city, minha, from it. Fa, therefore, sawfa, very soon, ta'lamun, you will know. فَسَوْفَ تَعْلَمُونَ, so very soon you will know. And then the Pharaoh continues with his speech. He says, La uqatti'anna, la, it means indeed, uqatti'anna, I shall bitterly cut into pieces. Aydiyakum, aydiyakum, your hands. Aydi, hands, kum, your, I'll totally slaughter your hands. Wa, and arjulakum, and your legs. Min khilaf, min, from, khilaf, opposite sides. I am going to surely chop or slaughter your hands from opposite sides. Summa, and then, la usallibannakum, I shall definitely crucify ajma'in, all of you. Usallibannakum, I will crucify you, ajma'in, all of you. Qalu, now this is the reply which the magicians gave. Qalu, they said, inna, we, indeed we, ila, towards Rabbina, our Lord, munqalibun, returned. So in that case, we will only return to our Lord. Ila Rabbina, munqalibun. Wa, and ma, not. Tanqimu, you seek revenge. Minna, from us. Illa, except. An, that. Amanna, we professed faith. Bi ayati Rabbina, in the revelations of our Lord. Lamma, when. Ja'atna, they came to us. So what they are saying is that you have sought revenge from us only because we have professed faith in the verses of God, in the revelations of God. Lamma ja'atna, when they came to us. And now they continued, and now they have uttered a prayer. Rabbana, our Lord. Afrigh, pour down. Alayna, upon us. Sabran, patience. Wa, and. Tawaffana, make us die. Muslimin, as Muslims. So pour down on us sabr, pour down on us patience, and make us die as Muslims. Waqala, and said, Mala'u, the leaders, min qawmi Fir'aun, from the nation of the Fir'aun, from the nation of the Pharaoh. Will you, tazaru, leave Musa, Moses, wa, and qawmahu, and his nation? Will you leave Moses and his nation? Liyufsidu fil ard, so that they spread disorder in the earth. Liyufsidu, spread fasad, fil ard, in the land. Wa yazaraka, and leave you. And or in fact, they forsake you, they just give you up. Wa alihataka, and your statues and your deities which have been set up by you. Qal, he said. Now this is what the Pharaoh said. Sanuqattilu, we shall definitely kill. Abna'ahum, their sons. Abna is the plural of banu, which means the sons. Ibn is the singular. Abna is the plural. Whom, there. So we will definitely kill their sons. Wa, and nastahyi, we will keep alive. Nisa'ahum, their women. Wa, and inna, indeed we. Fawqahum, fawqa, over, whom, them. So we are over them, qahirun. Qahirun means very controlling and very dominant. So we are upon them, very dominant. Qala, said, Musa, Moses. Qala Musa, Moses said, liqawmihi, to his nation. What did he say? Ista'inu billah. Ista'inu, seek help. Billah, from God. Wasbiru, and be patient. Seek help from God and be patient. Inna, indeed, al-arda, the earth, lillah, is for God. Indeed, the earth is for God, or indeed the earth belongs to God. Yurisuha man yasha. He makes whomsoever he wills. Yurisuha, he makes it inherit. Man yasha, whoever he wants. Min, from ibadihi, his servants. So he makes this earth inherent whomsoever he wants from among his servants. Wal aqiba, and the fate, or the good fate, lil muttaqeen, is for the muttaqi, for the God-fearing, and the real good faith is for the God-fearing. Qalu, Now they replied, these Israelites replied. What did they say? Uzina, we have been harassed. Min qabl, before. An ta'tiyana, you came to us. So these Israelites are now telling Moses that we were harassed before you came. Wa min ba'di, and after ma ji'tana, and after you came. So before you were assigned to us, we were being harassed. And now that you have come to us, the same thing is continuing. Qala, so Moses replied, Asa rabbukum, hopefully, Asa, hopefully, rabbukum, your Lord, an that yuhlika kills, yuhlika, of course, kills, yuhlika aduvvakum, your enemy, wa, and yastakhlifakum, and grants you authority, fi, in, al-ard, the land, fa, therefore, yanzur, watch, fa yanzur, how, fa yanzur, watch, kaifa, how, ta'malun, you conduct yourselves. So basically what is being said here is that he replied, Moses said, Asa rabbukum, hopefully your Lord is going to kill your enemy. I mean, yuhlika aduvvakum, aduv is enemy, kum, yours, yuhlika, destroy. Indeed, that God may destroy your enemy, wa yastakhlifakum, and yastakhlifa is authority, and kum is you. He's going to grant you authority, fi, in, al-ard, the land. Fayanzura, so you see, kaifa, how, ta'malun, you are going to conduct yourselves. Walaqad akhazna, walaqad, indeed, akhazna, we put ala fir'auna, the followers of the Pharaoh, bis-sinin, in the trials of famine. So sinin, trials of famine. Wa, and naqs, reduction, minas samarat, in food supplies. So we are going to definitely put the ala Firaun, the people of Firaun, in famine, sanin, and naqsim min al-amwal, in the reduction of these samarat, in the reduction of food. And why do we do this? لَعَلَّهُمْ يَزَّكَّرُونَ, so that they, يَزَّكَّرُونَ, are reminded, they pay heed. Fa, therefore, iza, when, ja'athum, ja'at, came, hum, to them. So when came to them, al-hasana, some good thing, qalu, they would say, lana hazihi, this is for us, meaning that this is our right. Wa, and in, if tusibhum, reach them, sayyi'atun, some calamity, and if some calamity reached them, yattayyaru bi Musa, they would regard it to be the ill omen of Moses. Yattayyaru, to regard someone having ill omen, bi Musa, of Moses. Wa, and mamma'ahu, those who were with him. So they said that this misfortune is because of the ill omen of Moses and those who are with him. Allah, remember, innama, indeed, ta'iruhum, their ill omen in the law is with God. Walakinna, but, aktharahum, most of them, akthara, most, hum, them, most of them, la ya'lamun, they do not know. Waqalu, and they said, mahma, whatever, ta'tina bihi, you bring to us, min ayatin, from signs, litasharana biha, so that you can weave a spell of magic on us. Litasharana biha, so that through it you can weave a spell of magic. Fama, fa, therefore, ma, not, nahnu, we, laka, about you, mu'mineen, profess faith. So whatever sign or whatever ayah you bring to us, fama nahnu laka bi mu'mineen, we are not going to believe in you. Fa, therefore, arsalna, we sent, alayhim, upon them, at-tufan, we sent on them a tufan, wal jarad, al jarad, this refers to locusts, wal qummal, and lice, was zafadi'a, and frogs, wa, and ad-dam, blood, ayatin mufassalat, as detailed signs. So we sent on them storm of locusts and lice and frogs and blood as detailed signs mentioned in the scriptures. Of course, this is what is implied here. And what happened? Fa, therefore, istakbaru, they became arrogant. Wakanu, and they were, qawman, a people, mujrimeen, wrongdoing. So, and indeed, they were a wrongdoing people. Wa, and lamma, when, waqa'a alayhim, a rijz. So whenever a calamity would come to them, waqa'a alayhim, strike them, rijz, a calamity. Qalu, they would say, Ya Musa, O Moses, ud'u lana rabbaka, call for us your Lord. Ud'u, call, lana, for us your Lord. Bima, because, ahida indaka, because of the promise that he has made with you. Ahida, he has made indaka, with you, because of the promise that he has made with you. La in kashafta, la in, if, kashafta, you ward it off, you ward off that calamity, anna, from us, a rizza, that calamity. If you ward off that calamity from us, la nu'minanna, we shall definitely believe, laka, in you. Wa, and la nursilanna, we will let go, ma'aka, with you, Bani Israel, the Israelites. So if you have it go away from us, this calamity, then we shall definitely believe in you, la nu'milanna laka, wa linursilannaka, and we shall definitely let the Israelites, ma'aka, go with you. And of course, this is the Israelites that are being referred to. Fa, therefore, lamma, when, kashafna anhum, kashafna, we took it away, anhum, from them. So in other words, when we warded off from them, and when we warded off from them, a rijz, the calamity, ila ajalin, to a certain period, hum balighuhu, which they had to reach. What happened? Izahum yankusun. Izahum, suddenly they. Yankusun, they became, they went on their word. They would break their promise. Remember, the promise was that if God makes the calamity go away, we will let the Bani Israel go with you and we will believe in you. But when this would happen, Izahum yankusun. Yankusun, nakasa, means they broke their promise. The word that they gave, they went back on it. Fa, therefore, in taqamna, or fan taqamna, we took revenge from them. Minhum is from them. Faman taqamna, we took revenge, minhum, from them. Fa, therefore, aghraqnahum. Aghraqna, we drowned, hum, them. So therefore we drowned them. Fi, in, al-yamme, in the sea. Al-yam, a sea. We drowned them in the sea. Bi-annahum, because they, kazzabu, denied, bi-ayatina, our revelations. So we drowned them because they denied our revelations. Wa, and kanu, they were, anha, from them, ghafilin, negligent. So because they were negligent of our revelations and they denied them, we had them drowned. Wa, and awrasnal qawma, we made inheritors another nation. Allazina, those who, kanu, who were, yustaz'afuna, who were oppressed. Yustaz'afuna, oppressed. Mashariq al-ard, in the east part of the earth. Wa magharibiha, and the west part. And what was that? Allati barakna fiha. Allati, that which, barakna, we blessed, fiha, in it. Wa, and tammat, finished or ended, kalimatu rabbika, the word of your Lord, al-husna. So the word of your Lord, so tammat kalimatu rabbika al-husna would mean, what tammat kalimatu rabbika al-husna, the word of your Lord, which was the gracious word, it was fulfilled, which meant that whatever he had promised, it was fulfilled. Ala Bani Israel, upon the Bani Israel, bima sabaru, bima, because sabaru, they showed patience. Wa dammarna, and we destroyed, ma kana, what, yasna'u fir'auna, the Pharaoh did, wa qawmahu, and his nation. Whatever they did, we destroyed it. Wa, and ma kanu ya'rishun, and whatever they would grow on their thatched screens, which of course refers to those vines. So what in effect it meant that we destroyed the dwellings of the Pharaoh as well, and people who were kept as oppressed in them, they were made inheritors of that land. So with this we come to an end to the literal and idiomatic translation. And now if you have any questions regarding this passage or any other general question, you may have the time to raise them.
So Dr. Saleem, I have one question in the chat pertaining to the passage. Then I have some other questions that I'll ask once we finish with the passage. The question is, that means apart from being a prophet and messenger of Moses, a messenger of God, Moses was also a nationalist leader who was appointed by God to get his nation, Bani Israel, freed from a Qupti nation of Pharaoh and populate his nation as a sovereign nation in Palestine, regardless Pharaoh is adamant or believing. Is that the case?
No, certainly not. How could he be regarded as a nationalist leader? He was a prophet of God. He was with a mission which was a divine mission. This was not a worldly leader's mission to have his nation liberated and then have it populated in some other country. He was given this mission that he had to liberate these Israelites from the clutches of the Pharaoh, take them away, have them organized in the land of Palestine. Why? So that they could become organized as the Bani Israel, as the Israelites, and then create a center of monotheism in Palestine, whose ancient name is Canaan. And then from there, they had to spread out and bring their message to other people of the world. So this has nothing to do with any nationalist leader. This is the mission given to a prophet of God.
Shabana Ansari, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
बनी इसराइल जो हजरत मूसा को कह रहे थे कि आपके आने से पहले भी हम हैरेस होते थे और आपके आने के बाद भी, तो ये इसकी क्या सेंस बनती थी? क्योंकि वो गुलाम तो थे, तो इसलिए उन पर जुल्म हो रहा था, उसमें हजरत मूसा का क्या कसूर था?
So you see, they're not saying that it was because of you. They were just saying that what difference that have you brought about? Before you came, we were still in these trials, and now that you have come, again we are facing those trials. So what they wanted to say was that your coming has made no difference. Before you came, we were harassed, we were in slavery, we were bonded, everything. And now that you have come, we would have thought that you would have done something for us. But it seems that every time something happens, we have these storms of lices and frogs and blood being poured upon us. So what is the difference? Only the nature of the calamity has changed. Otherwise, harassment it was earlier on, and harassment it is now.
Sorry, thank you.
If anybody has any questions pertaining to the passage, please ask it now. Otherwise, I will be opening the forum for open questions. If anybody has any questions. Okay, Dr. Saleem, I have a few chat questions that are general questions, and then we can probably end the session.
Okay.
The first one is, okay, let me just scroll up. Have you taught any classes or courses on Bible and Quran? How do we find what Bible is saying whilst we study Quran? That is the intertextuality of Bible and Quran.
So for that, I have often referred you to the tafsir of Abdul Majid Daryabadi. It is a tafsir in 4 volumes, both in English and in Urdu available. And for any intertextuality between the Bible and the Quran, every time a Quranic verse is mentioned, and if there is a parallel reference in the Bible, that tafsir actually documents it, it cites it. And I also do it whilst teaching you, and at times I read it out, at times I just refer to it. But if you want it to be done for every single verse, although there is not a parallel for every single verse, but whatever is found in other scriptures is actually documented in that tafsir, and it's a very useful handbook for people who would like to do a comparative study between the Bible and the Quran.
Can you repeat the name, Dr. Saleem?
It's called a translation. Let me recall the name. It says a translation of the Quran by Abdul Majid Daryabadi. Abdul Majid Daryabadi. So Daryabad is a city in India, and Abdul Majid is the name of the author. So Daryabad is like his connection with the city of Daryabad. So that is why he was called Abdul Majid Daryabadi. If you just type this name and his tafsir, I think it's freely available on the internet without any cost in PDF form in 4 volumes.
Okay. Then I have another question. Does Allah allow his messengers to be killed? In case of Prophet Isa, it seems like that is what happened.
So Jesus never was killed. I mean, this is the Quran has vehemently said, وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ وَمَا صَلَّبُوهُ. They tried to kill him and crucify him, but the Quran says that neither were they successful in killing him nor crucifying him.
But Dr. Saleem, there are other messengers who were killed, right?
You see, they were prophets, not messengers. Remember, this immunity is given to messengers who have to deliver the truth in a conclusive way. And that too, immunity is until the time they have finished their message. I mean, they have finished conveying their message. Within that period, there is complete immunity given to them. I mean, complete security, I would say, given to them, that they would not be killed, because they have been given a mission, and unless they complete that mission, they cannot be killed. So during that time in which that mission is being fulfilled, they have this security from God, and this has never ever happened in the history of mankind.
What is the basic difference between a prophet and a messenger, Dr. Saleem?
So we have discussed this, that in the case of a messenger, the truth becomes evident through the personality of a messenger to such an extent that his immediate addressees, if they deny him, they are punished in this world. In the case of a prophet, this does not happen. Even if they deny a messenger of God, a prophet of God, then they are not punished.
Okay. Amar, if you have an off-topic question, please go ahead and ask it. Amar, do you have an off-topic question? Okay, I'll move to Riaz Khan. Riaz Khan, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
So what actually happened to Prophet Isa alayhi salam in reference to Quran?
So the Quran says, Inni mutawaffika, that he died a natural death.
But if he died a natural death, oh, okay. So that means...
Just as Prophet Muhammad died a natural death, or other prophets died naturally. I mean, there's nothing different about him.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Amar, you can ask your question if you can hear us. Otherwise, I'm going to be closing the sessions because I have no chat questions and I do not have any raised hands also.
Ji, I want to ask if I can be
go
heard.
ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. Assalamu alaikum again, Ji. And Dr. My question is specifically once again about Bani Israel. Dr. seems to me that this ailment that is of theirs, that is discussed in Surah Baqarah, in which in a specific incident, they were asking a lot of questions and about what kind of cow to sacrifice. It seems to me that when I look at the modern world, I see so many of the same people, Bani Israel, being leaders, thought leaders, and they are so inquisitive and they ask so many questions, and they are always so restless, and just their spirits are always sort of like full of inquiry. Like, for example, I read somewhere that all but two of the leaders, all the leadership of the Russian Revolution were Jews. So many of the architects of the New World are Jews. And Nobel laureates, writers, literary figures, scientists, even these days, tech giants, all of them are Jews. Can it be said that these people still have the same qualities, but when the same qualities were being used in, being adamant or difficult with God, then obviously it was seen as a sin. But in a worldly scenario, it gives rise to a new world order in some way.
So you see, this is more a question of anthropology. An anthropologist can see that whether a particular race of people has these characteristics. It does not directly pertain to religion. But what does pertain to religion is that the nature of that curiosity that they showed regarding the slaughtering of the cow was not that they were actually inquisitive. It was just that they were dilly-dallying, they were trying to delay, or they were trying not to follow the exact directive. It's not a question of curiosity at all in that case. It was just a question of evading the directive that was given to them. So whether the Jews have this trait or not, as I said, it's not a subject of religion. They might have it, they might not have it. This is more pertaining to anthropologists and sociologists. And yes, this is a study of human habits and races. And we see that there are certain nations who have certain traits very strongly set in them. And that is perfectly okay. But again, as I said, this does not have any relation to any religious sort of argument. I mean, religion will only tell you what exactly happened. So the nature of curiosity that you are referring to between the today's Jews and those of the earlier ones is entirely different. In today's case, they are really very, they are very inquisitive, they are very research oriented, and they are at the topmost, they are top-notch people. But in that case, this was a sort of as I said, a delaying tactic, and they wanted to evade the directive of God. So there was no inquisitiveness shown by them in that case.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
To to Amar's point, Dr. Saleem, they seem to, especially living in the West, they are very disciplined people, and they do seem to be a little gifted at some level.
So that's what I'm saying. I mean, this is not something which is directly related to Quran. It is more a study of anthropology and how different people, different races have certain traits in them. I mean, perfectly okay if they have them, and of course there are certain other nations who have other traits.
Right. Okay, I have a chat question. Why would Moses still be having the mission to take the Bani Israel to Palestine even if the Pharaoh mended his ways?
Because the reason was that the Israelites were meant to become witnesses to the religion of God, being organized in Canaan, establishing Canaan or Palestine as a center of Tawheed and worship of one God, and then calling all the people of the world towards it, and going out of that land and preaching to them and telling them that we have one center, one model center of monotheism in Palestine, and this is one place that we can show you, and we have come to you with the message of God. It is precisely the same thing for which Prophet Muhammad and his companions were, of course, settled in the land of Arabia. And of course, this is something that happened at the very end. Otherwise, it was Ishmael who was settled in the land of Arabia for this very purpose. So it seemed that it was Arabia and Palestine who were selected successively. First, Palestine as the center of worship of one God, and then when this did not happen, then the same task was given to Prophet Muhammad in Arabia.
Thank you everybody for joining, and inshallah we'll be reconvening next weekend. Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Khuda Hafiz, everyone.
Thank you.